Garry Paskwietz joined here by John Jackson. JJ, the Trojans coming off a victory up in Pullman, 44-17, a nice victory by Trojan standards to go up there. Questions about how strong of a Cougar team this is. The Cougars gave the Trojans a lot of breaks early on. They lost their quarterback. Mike Leach going forward on 4th and 2. So in a nutshell, you get the win, you get out of town, but how much can you read into it?
Well, it's important, of course, to win, and how they won. They won with some style points. You know, they played effectively. They played efficiently. Not a lot of turnovers. They didn't look like, any major mistakes. Not a lot of penalties either, in that game. So, you need games like this. You need games where you could go up and you're playing an opponent you're supposed to win, and you win the way you're supposed to. So I think this was a good win for the Trojans from that standpoint.
Talk about your thoughts on the offensive line. There was some shuffling around after the loss of Chad Wheeler. You had Toba Lobendon out there at left tackle, Khalil Rogers at left guard, who opened up a lot of eyes. How did you think things looked down there?
I absolutely love the way the offensive line played, all around. First of all, you mentioned Toba Lobendon starting at left tackle, and we didn't call his name or didn't hear his name all day long, which is a good thing when you're a left tackle. He did a great job in pass protection and protecting Cody Kessler's backside, and I think that as the game wore on, Cody actually got more confidence to stand in the pocket and make some of the throws that he was able to make. I love the way that Khalil Rogers played. I love the way he finished the game. For those of you that didn't see it at the end of the game, he was really he strung together 3 or 4 pancake type blocks, which was great for him, and he was having a lot of fun. I mean, the one thing, every touchdown he was down there, celebrating with his teammates as well. So I think that this injury, although it's unfortunate that Chad Wheeler is out, it did give the Trojans a sense of depth on that offensive line that they didn't really realize they had.
And let's remember, Khalil Rogers was a guy who was in line to start at right guard up until the week leading up to the season, got hurt, missed his window right then, but came out well. I agree with you. Seeing the emotion down there, seeing him get fired up, you don't see that a heck of a lot down there on the offensive line, so good to see. As we're sitting here right now, JJ, getting into the bye week and then 3 games left for the Trojans, Steve Sarkisian talked the other day about how the month of November, Pete Carroll always taught him, your team by now. You know the strengths of your team, you can lean on. When you're talking about the USC offense right now and you're looking at what the strengths are of this team, we were talking earlier about the ability of the passing game to kind of get things going and be what the offense relies on to get things going.
Right, and that's a big thing for the Trojans. I think that one thing Steve Sarkisian has learned is now the pass game can really lead this team and carry this team if necessary. The one thing they don't want to get caught, because Buck is going to be Buck and he's going to be great the rest of the year, but the one thing you don't want to get caught as a coach is to have the team load up the box like Washington State did, stop the run like Washington State did for most of the game, and then have no outlet. I think that he really learned and understood that this passing game, if necessary, can carry the load without a run game. Now, of course, you obviously want the balance, but that's a good thing for the coach to know, and Coach Sarkisian to know, is that the young receivers outside, and Nelson, of course, being a veteran guy, if necessary, those guys will get you a victory.
And I thought it was great that they did not go away from the run. Like you said, the passing game was working, but you stayed with Buck and eventually got him his 100 yards. But when you look at the passing game and saying, okay, what can you work on at the end? There's one element of things that you're saying maybe we could see a little bit more from a certain position.
Yeah, I would love to see them get the tight ends going. I mean, one thing that Steve Sarkisian has been known for, back in his days at Washington, was getting the tight end going and had the Mackey Award winner, right? So, with that being said, Randall Telfer and Bryce Dixon have had good years, but I also think there's more for them because if there's any place that the Trojans have a huge matchup advantage, it's at the tight end spot because both these guys are athletic, both these guys can run vertical down the field, and both of these guys will have linebackers matched up against them for the most part. So look for that, in the games coming down toward the stretch. If there's one, spot that the Trojans might utilize that might not have been utilized a lot throughout the year, look for those tight ends to make some plays down the stretch.
And now flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, you talk about what this Trojan defense has been able to do well. When you look particularly in the last several games, they've done a good job of stopping the run.
Well, I love the way the defensive front seven has played, and give all of them credit for stopping the run. The critical thing about it is they've been able to stop the run without getting the safeties involved. And whenever you can do that and stop them with your base package, that means you have the extra guys in the secondary to help cover up receivers if necessary. So that's a key component coming down the stretch. A lot of these teams, Cal, a little bit, but definitely UCLA and Notre Dame, they will commit to running the football, and that front seven is going to have to stop them from running the football without committing extra guys to do it. So that's a key component that the Trojans has been a strength going back to the Boston College game, and they need to be a strength throughout the rest of the season.
Going to be very interesting to see on a couple injuries. Sua Cravens, J.R. Tavai, those guys are going to be key. And I was thinking about it as you were talking. It's not that we can underappreciate a Hayes Poulard, but when you look at a guy who is going to end up leading the team in tackles for 3 years, was second to fourth here, and you talk about the rotation, Hayes doesn't come out. Anthony Sorrow doesn't come out. So those two guys in the inside linebacker spots really doing a good job. and talk about things you want to see in the last last month of the season, there's going to need to be some pressure on these quarterbacks, particularly the last two that you see. Yeah. Are you set enough with what you're seeing in the secondary now, particularly with the emergence of a guy like Adoree? Does that allow you to keep that coverage back there and allow you to maybe put a little extra guy on the pressure on the rush?
Well, you're right. The primary thing in terms of defending the pass for all the teams that we play going down the stretch is going to be pressure on the quarterback. You can't allow them to stand and get comfortable in the pocket. And so in order to do that, I think they're going to have to bring added pressure. I mean, we've seen it, week after week, that when Tavai is a guy that pressures the quarterback, Leonard Williams, of course, pressures the quarterback. But in order to get that consistent pressure, you're going to have to bring extra guys. You're going to have to confuse these quarterbacks. You're not going to have to allow them to get comfortable back there. So with that being said, I think that you're going to have to add more pressures, and that's going to put more pressure on your secondary, because anytime you blitz, you have to play man coverage behind it. And so with Adoree playing at such a high level, being really the shutdown corner, I mean, he's sort of the Josh Shaw, quote unquote, is taking over that role for this team in terms of being able to lock down guys. With him playing at such a high level, it gives you that freedom to leave him on one side of the field, shut whoever it is down, and then bring pressures from different directions, and that way it'll confuse the quarterback.
I can understand how an opposing coach, it's tempting to throw on a true freshman. Good luck.
Right.
Do that at
it
your
hasn't
own
worked
peril.
already.
For John Jackson, this is Garry Paskwietz, ESPN.